This program is for educational purposes only. The content is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any diseases, nor is it intended to take the place of your primary care physician. The statements in this program have not been evaluated by the FDA. Testimonials are shared as individual experiences, and the individual results vary and may not be typical. We do not make any claims regarding health or income. As an empowered individual, you do have options available. We are honored to have a founding father of the science of epigenetics guiding us with the best options to obtain or maintain optimal health, Dr. Joel Wallach. This program is for educational purposes only. The content is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any diseases, nor is it intended to take the place of your primary care physician. The statements in this program have not been evaluated by the FDA. Testimonials are shared as individual experiences, and the individual results vary and may not be typical. We do not make any claims regarding health or income. As an empowered individual, you do have options available. We are honored to have a founding father of the science of epigenetics guiding us with the best options to obtain or maintain optimal health, Dr. Joel Wallach.
Hello and welcome everyone to Daily with Doc. Let's go ahead and open up the doors and let everyone in the Zoom room. My name is Ruth Ellen Sanchez, and I am going to be your host for today, covering for Rebecca Duke, so she's away. So first of all, I need to say that this program is sponsored by dailywithdoc.com. And also that this program is for educational purposes only. The content is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent diseases, nor is it intended to take the place of your primary care physician. The statements in this program have not been evaluated by the FDA. Testimonials are shared as individual experiences of the individual. Results may vary and may not be typical. We do not make any claims on regarding health or income. As an empowered individual, you have options available. Sorry, the screen shifted. Anyway, so we are so glad that you are here today to join us. We have a very special guest, one of my favorite people, Richard Renton, who is part of Youngevity's Scientific Advisory Board. And I'm going to go ahead and bring him on the screen with me. Let me get you spotlighted. All right, there you are. And he has some very interesting facts about minerals and the science behind supplements and absorption. And he is one of the original formulators for Youngevity. So I'm going to allow Richard to tell us all about his background. And so Richard, take it away.
So if you want to know the dark secrets behind me, I went to college with a baseball scholarship and was fully planned to become a professional baseball player. In fact, I was even drafted in the third round to do that, but then I ruined my knee. And being a catcher, if you don't have good knees, you can pretty well forget that idea. And Houston was very polite and said they weren't going to invest any money on me and that I should look in a different direction. And so I changed my degree and got my undergraduate in nutrition and sports medicine. And from there, I got a postgraduate degree in biochemistry and sports medicine and became a certified athletic trainer. I did that for a few years until I found out that my job wasn't to take care of the athlete. My job was to get the athlete back on the field, whether it was to his advantage or not, his or her. And so that morally wasn't right for me. And I went in different directions. And the long story short, 40 years ago, yes, I'm that old, 40 years ago plus, I actually started an aquarium store, a retail store selling saltwater fish. And I had a partner, and we won't mention names, and I was the money and he was supposedly the brains. And just before we opened, probably about 4 weeks, I realized he didn't have any brains. And so I went around all the other pet stores that had saltwater fish looking for an individual that was knowledgeable with the total intent to steal him and to have him come work for me. And I found this 18-year-old kid that was in a store out in Aloha, Oregon. And I talked to him, and he seemed to have more knowledge than almost all the other store people combined. And so I basically said to him, I'll pay you $2 more an hour, or you can be part of my business and I'll share it with you. And that individual was Steve Wallach when he was 18 years old. And so he decided to, he being very loyal, went to his boss, told his boss, who I knew, these guys are opening up this door. And she says, I hear about it. He's a chemist. He actually knows what he's doing. He's got this innovative saltwater system that I hear about that no one else has done. And you could always come back, but it might be a good experience for you. And she actually gave him a green light to come. And so he came to work with me. And he was actually living in my house at the time with the other partner. And we opened up this aquarium store. And at that time, Doc had his practice in Portland, Oregon. And on weekends, he had a second practice in Cannon Beach. And so I met Doc back then. And so that was 40 plus years ago. And the aquarium store, like most typical first businesses, closed. We didn't make it. I started to sell cars, and Steve got involved in selling cars at the same dealership. And he thought the grass would be greener on the other side of the hill and went to a different dealership. And I says, well, if you go to this big dealership, the most important thing is the receptionist that handles the incoming telephone calls has to become your friend, because if she likes you, she gives you good leads. Mm-hmm. And he kind of nodded and agreed that that would be a good idea. Well, that ended up being Michelle Wallach. And so those two met there, and a few years later got married and started to have a family. And for their wedding gift, Doc gave them an application, and he didn't pay the fee. He just gave them the application to join a multi-level marketing company that he was involved with. And they started to do that and was getting busier and busier. Steve had 2 jobs. He was working at the car dealership. He was delivering pizzas at night. Michelle was working at the car dealership, and she was also learning the mortgage trade. And they had a child, and it was just getting a little bit crazy. And so they called me back up and said, you know, my dad's doing this. Can you come help us? And that was his way to get people signed up in the business. And I said at that time, it was a good time for me to change and go in a different direction. So Steve and I started to do it, and we were very successful in the multi-level marketing business because we were directly underneath Doc, and Doc was doing his shows, and things were crazy. And there's people on this call way back then that were around too. And it was rather enjoyable, and it was a good experience. But then Doc complained that there was products that company wouldn't sell. And at that time, I was married to a wonderful woman called Roxanne. And she says, well, you know how to make that stuff. Why don't you just make it for them? And so Steve and I started a company, and we started to make the side products, which everyone loved, because, you know, when you have Doc come and speak, you have to pay for the room, you have to pay for advertising and all those types of things. And the residual income from multi-level was always a month or 2 months away. And so they wanted a faster way to make cash. So they were buying my products at wholesale, Steve and my product at wholesale, and then selling it for retail, and that would cover all the expenses. And so that's kind of funny. So we actually had a company going, and then the multi-level marketing company terminated us because Doc was making too much in commissions, and they thought that they could run it without him. And I was a conflict of interest because I had another nutritional product. And so with the help of Doc, with the help of Steve and Michelle and myself, we started Youngevity. Steve and Michelle moved down to San Diego because that's where Doc wanted the company. And I stayed up here in the Pacific Northwest because I have grandkids. And my wife says, you can move down to San Diego if you want, but I'm not going to. And so I thought it would probably be smart if I stayed up here. And so we continued making products, and I had the honor of designing all the original 11 products we came out with Youngevity. There was a little bit of pressure on me because Doc kept doing lectures and selling product that hadn't even been designed yet. And if you get to know Doc, that was an amusing time. And so in 3 months, Steve and Michelle developed a multi-level marketing company. I developed the original 11 products and found manufacturers to help us manufacture all those products. And that was beginning. By the way, that company that did us wrong is now part of Youngevity due to a lawsuit situation, and we have their products too. So it was a growing and learning experience. So more or less, that's my background. I had the honor of being on the scientific board with Dr. Schrauzer and Dr. DeRue and several other doctors. And I was basically, they would give me a challenge for a product. I would go and develop the product. I would bring it back to them, and it was like being a freshman in college because I had all these PhDs in front of me and going, why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do this? What about this? What about that? And that was the process in developing new products. And then we would do that. Once we got all the ingredients and we knew what we want, then we would start pricing it. So price never was initially an issue with the products. And so some of the products were kind of expensive, some weren't so bad. And we started to do it. The other thing that was kind of interesting at the beginning is that Doc felt, and he's right, if the product really made a difference, people didn't care what it tasted like. So if I had severe joint pain and all of a sudden the joint pain went away, but the stuff didn't taste very good, people didn't really care because it worked. But as time goes on, we realize there's a lot of people that want to take nutritional products as maintenance products, and then flavor became an issue. And so the majority of the time, I'll do the formulas and I'll design the products, but then it goes to Steve and Michelle, and they work on the flavoring compound aspect of it, and we develop the product from there. And so I've been doing products. All the BTT products are basically my designs, and everything on the original Youngevity labels that start with a 5 or 6 digit number are all my design, as well as some of the pro lines. Now, some have been changed over the years, but we've had fun making them, all based on the plant-derived minerals. So there's the 2-cent story of my background.
Well, thank you. That's fascinating. I always loved hearing it because every time you tell it, there's a little tiny tidbit that's new. And I love that. So why don't you tell us about the formulation of the plant-derived minerals and how that came about and its absorbability?
So the plant-derived minerals that Doc found originally with the old company was a place that was called Live Earth Mines. It had several pluses. One, it has a large stockpile of product. Two, it was easy to get to because when you mine and you have to go 50 miles off the road, that adds a lot of expense. It was easy to get to. And C, it was a almost million-plus-year compost pile, if you think about it. And therefore, it had a large supply of 70-plus minerals. And so because of that, it was an ideal resource. Now, the mine had sold to some new owners and whatnot. And so, and Youngevity forgot to pay their, not Youngevity, the previous company forgot to pay their bill. And so Live Earth Products wouldn't sell to them. And they went to another one called Clark Mine. And so I went back to the original people and negotiated and said, I promise we'll pay you. I'll put my name up for collateral in the first couple of years and things like that. And they started to make the product for us, and we started to do it. Now, from there, humic shale, and if you haven't gone to this YouTube, there's a Youngevity Mineral Mine Tour. And it is a tour of the owner of the mine and myself. Doc's in it, bits and pieces. And we talk about the mine so you can visually see it as well as hear it. But basically, it's a humic shale deposit. Now, when people hear the word shale, they always think shale rock shale. And it isn't quite that. Shale means thinly layered material. And so it's basically a heavy vegetated ancient mineral forest like a million years ago. And over the years, it dropped its leaves and new trees grew and dropped their leaves. And it all started to have this very rich soil compost pile. And then with the eruptions and some change in our climate in the freezing stage, it became flooded, and then limestone developed on top of it. But the limestone wasn't that deep. And if you go to the video and you see the video, you'll see the limestone's about 12 feet deep. It wasn't heavy enough to turn it into coal, because if it was 50 feet underneath the ground or 100 feet underneath the ground, it would be coal. Or if it was several hundred feet underneath the ground, it could be diamonds by the time that age period. But it's narrow. But what that limestone did is compressed it and kept it dry and protected it from all the environment. And so what we do is we take that humic shale and we grind it up and we put it in purified water, and we control the biometric pressure, the temperature, and the time. And we basically do osmosis. And if you're not sure what osmosis is, most people know what summer tea is, where you take the tea bags and you put it in the water and you put the lid on and you put it out on your porch. And if you give it a few hours, it's wonderful tasting tea, depending on the quality of the tea. And so we do the same thing with the minerals. And when we do that, we get a high percentage of fulvic acid. And so fulvic acid is the key thing. It's all electively charged versus positive and elective. And it's very highly absorbable. Typically, fulvic acid is where, if your digestive system's healthy, you can absorb up to 98%. There again, I always put that digestive system in there, because if your digestive system isn't healthy, you're not going to achieve those numbers. The other thing is that it's basically A to Z as far as the minerals that are in there. I say 70 plus because I don't call oxygen a mineral, it's a gas. But that's on the list. And if you search on the internet, you can find the list and you can see the parts per million that are there based on per liter. And you could start playing around with the math and realize that there isn't a lot of the trace minerals, because we don't need a lot. We need micrograms per day. We don't need milligrams. It's not like calcium, where you should have 2,000 milligrams a day, but you need those micrograms, just 1 or 2. And that was the goal of this product initially, to make it absorbable so that we can get that in. And so once they take the purified water and we dissolve it and we get it to the solution that we want, 32 to 38,000 dissolved particles in per each liter. We then put it in food containers and we ship it off for bottling. We either dilute it halfway and make plant-derived minerals out of it, or we do other things with it and put it in classic, or put it in Beyond Tangy Tangerine or Tangy Tangerine, or all those, where we'll dilute it down. But that is the base of all the products with Youngevity, is the plant-derived minerals. Now, the other thing, and people don't realize it, we have a product called Mineral Caps. Mineral Caps is the plant-derived minerals minus water. And it has almost the exact same dosage. We had to play a little game to keep foreign governments happy, and I'll tell you that in just a little bit. But we basically just removed all the moisture, and so 1 mineral cap basically equals 1 fluid ounce, or 30 mil, of the plant-derived minerals. And people go, well, it costs more. Well, think about it. There's 64 caps in a bottle, which means it equals 2 bottles of liquid. And if you compare it that way, it's actually less money. And so it has an advantage, especially for our international friends that might be on this call, because the bottle, most of the liquid, 2.5 pounds, about 2.5 pounds is water, and we're shipping that water. But the mineral caps, it's about 3 ounces. I should convert that into grams really quick, but I won't. 3 ounces, and we can ship that internationally and isn't nearly as expensive. some of the foreign governments came to us and said, well, you have to name all the plants that are in the plant-derived minerals. Well, those are plants that were 1 million years ago, and that's almost impossible to do. So we kind of played a little bit of a game, and there's a plant-based fulvic acid that is made from sea algae. And we put a little bit of that sea algae in there, and therefore we were able to name those plants. And so we said that the product contained these plants plus more, and we were able to get it into Europe and some other countries. So we kind of had to play a little trick game with that to keep governments happy, but that's what it is. But if you look at the mineral caps, you'll see that it has 2 different sources on it. And that's the exact reason, not because we really didn't like the plant-derived minerals, but the mineral caps gave us an advantage. The other thing, and it's where I get involved, it's not really exciting stuff. There's a proposition in California, it's called Prop 65. And I call it a royal pain in the body. And
Agreed.
that basically says that if there's a carcinogen in your product and you have more than 12 employees, and it's at a certain level that they dictate, you have to put a warning either on the product itself or on the internet saying that this product may contain carcinogenics. Now, there is 3 parts per billion, that's with a B, billion, of lead in our plant-derived minerals. It's an organic source and cannot be stored in the fat in your body. But that didn't make any difference. The line for the California government was 3 parts per billion. So we have to have that warning. When we put the algae in it, the algae had less, which dropped it to 2.6 parts per billion. And so with the mineral caps, we don't have to put the warning on. Now I see people going, oh.
That explains so much.
So that's why those type things happen. And the other thing that people always ask me is how long will the supply in southern Utah last? And I think it'll last longer than I'll be alive. I think it'll last longer than my kids will be alive. I think it'll last longer than my grandkids. But we do have plans for an alternative source in case anything ever happened that we have patents on that we don't talk about. And so that will be available. And so will we always have fulvic acid available in our products? The answer is yes, because the patented products that we have, we can recreate at any time. And it's not land, it's plant-based.
Thank you. That was very informative.
You ask a one-word question and I give you a 20-minute answer.
No, I love it because people have asked me, because I always recommend the mineral caps for traveling, people who are businessmen that travel or mothers that go cheerleading with their daughters or sons, like all the different sports. I didn't understand why it was more expensive than a bottle of plant-derived minerals. So now I can say this equals 2 bottles of plant-derived minerals. And I've read the label, I don't know how many times. And so thank you for telling us that.
One of the things a lot of people don't realize when they read labels, and I'll bring this up, I should probably bring the label up just so you can see it. On the back of the label or on the side of the label, it says supplement fact panel. Mm-hmm. And at the top of supplement fact panel, it has the dose, and it can be 1 capsule, it can be 2 capsules, it can be 4 capsules. And then it says how many doses are in the bottle. And so if you look at it, it says the dose is 1 and the mineral caps has 64 parts in it. Our daily, it can be 3 or 4, and then it's, depending on what's going on. And you're double checking me, huh?
64.
And so a lot of times when people look at it, and let's go outside of our product line, they turn around and say, well, there's so much more in theirs in a capsule. Why can't you do the same? Because they're not reading the label and it says 2 or 3 or 4 capsules. And because of that, it's hard to compare apples to apples. Sometime, and then the other way you can see it is that a large 2-piece capsule can hold about 600 milligrams of products. And if you look at what we have in some of our products, and they say, well, that's equal to one of our capsules, and you start adding up our product, you can compare apples to apples there and say, that's impossible. You can't do it. It's impossible to do it. The other thing is that when you look at a supplement fact panel, it will say calcium in the form of, and that's in those parentheses, tricalcium phosphate. And it says it has 600 milligrams in it. And I'm just pulling a number out. And that means there's 600 milligrams of calcium. Tricalcium phosphate basically means there's 3 molecules of calcium and 1 molecule of phosphate. So that makes a total. And people then turn around and say there's 600 milligrams and it's calcium citrate. Well, calcium citrate, only about 12% is calcium. The 88% is citrate. And so sometimes it's hard to use certain compounds because there's so much other stuff that's in it that it just makes it not logical. And so that's some of the other things that you can look at when you see it. Now, 20 years ago, the federal government didn't make us put the parentheses around there. And there was a lot of people who would put 600 milligrams of calcium citrate. And you would think when you read the label, oh, it's got 600 milligrams of calcium. No, it's got 72 milligrams of calcium in it, but it's got 600 milligrams of calcium citrate. So it's still a little bit of confusion. The FDA do not inspect the labels prior to them packaging the product. The only way that they review it is if someone complains. And the guideline for the mineral to doing labels is crazy. I'm going to disappear for a second.
Okay.
Here's the guideline. That's how thick it is. And this is just for nutritional and food products. And that's the size of the print that's in it.
Oh my goodness.
So a lot of companies, because it is so difficult to do it, will actually hire a firm to do it for them. Youngevity works with our manufacturers, and then we review it. And occasionally we make a mistake, but we correct it. And we'll do that. And then the whole trick is that the other thing too is this is a $700 book. I don't know why they have to charge that much, but they do. And so we try to fall within all the guidelines. Now, Youngevity Products, not only does the manufacturer have to do a C of A, we require all our manufacturers to have a third party do a C of A. And some of them like NSF and things like that will require us to change our directions for the certification, because when it's NFFs, that also means it's safe for athletes to take it. And so they can be confident if there's an NSF sticker on there that it's safe for athletes, because they test for all those things. It's an annual certification. Our manufacturers all have to do it. I have a pile of them over here where I keep track of it, as well as Ray. Of course, when I try to find one quickly, I can't, but that's beside the point. Oh, well, life goes on. Oh, wait a minute. I think I saw one. They look like this, and it has to do with the manufacturer as well as the product. And so Youngevity takes those extra steps. It makes it more expensive, but we find that it's worthwhile for doing that. And so there goes that part.
All right, thank you so much. We do have a couple questions. So AJ has his hand up, and I know he's going to ask the questions from YouTube that have come in, and then I have a question, and then we'll move on to another.
Also saying no to you.
All right, so AJ, let me bring you on.
Yeah, my question was not going to be the questions from YouTube, because I'm hoping that Phyllis will ask the YouTube questions.
Okay, perfect, Phyllis.
But my question is, Richard, given that the FDA has that large book of guidelines, do you find that is helpful as an organization? Are they being helpful and protective of the public because of the other bad actors, or is it really because you may be a good actor? Is it just a pain?
So the guideline is to make every company create the labels 99% the same, so that a consumer can look at the label and tell whether this product is this product and compare apples to apples. That's the goal. But it doesn't have to be reviewed by them before they start selling the product. And I guarantee that half the product that's on the shelf has either errors in it or they intentionally misrepresent it. And there isn't really they didn't create a system per se that was effective to go out there and double check. And minuses and pluses, I don't know if I want them constantly taking our product and testing it. And not that we're dishonest, but if they find one thing wrong, then they'll fine you or make you do a recall and things like that when it's not necessary. Youngevity's been very fortunate. We have regular FDA inspections at the corporate office as well as all our manufacturers, and we've never really failed a audit by them. Sometimes they ask for us to do changes with our SOP, standing operational procedures, on how we check stuff in or anything, but we've never really had a recall complaint on products at all. Yay.
That's why we're going to keep fingers crossed. Absolutely. Well, thank you for everything you're doing, and hopefully Phyllis will bring in those YouTube questions.
Phyllis?
Yes, hang on just a second.
Okay.
Okay. Richard, we've got lots of really good questions from YouTube. Olga wants to know about MSM in powdered form, which obviously we have it in another form. So how well is that plain old MSM absorbed if you take it with a lot of other supplements? Or would you need to have it be formulated with other cofactors?
Oh, Richard, you muted for some reason. Sorry.
Muted. All right. I think I'm unmuted. Am I unmuted?
Yes, you are.
So MSM is an ingredient, and let's talk about that. So we use from Opti MSM, which is the company that has all the trademarks and created it. And we get it from the United States. I can tell you it's $20-something a kilo. I can also get it from China for $3 a kilo. So when you start to ask about the purity of products and the quality of the products, we try to take advantage and bring in the good products because the absorption level goes up. Then you have to look at how is it packaged. If it's in a tablet like Ultra MSM, it has to be a soft absorb. So once it hits the acid in your stomach, it can dissolve. Once it dissolves in the acid in your stomach and goes into your digestive tract, it can bond to other things and go in as well. If you want to take straight MSM, you can, but I think you'll find out that it wants to be bonded with other ingredients to really make it well. And that's part of the advantage of the plant-derived minerals, is that if you take the plant-derived minerals and you drink an ounce and you take your pills with the solution that you created with that, you've created most of the bonding packages unless we put it in with the product that will help you absorb better. So it's really a loaded question, but they have to find out, A, is it a quality ingredient? And then B, what is it bonded to and how is it packaged? Is liquid MSM probably absorb better? The answer is yes. But do I like Ultra MSM? I really do.
And now we move on to Aaliyah, and she has 3 questions for things that it's her wish list for Youngevity, her Christmas wish list for what she'd like Youngevity to make. Okay, you ready for this?
Uh-huh.
Number 1, can Youngevity make a chewable flavored omega type product for children?
Okay.
And number two, a chewable version of BTT, Beyond Tangy Tangerine. She says our existing tablets, they're a little big, a little hard to swallow. So she's looking for the chewable. And number three, she's wondering if glucogel could be added to the Liquid Ultimate Classic. And not only that, could the calcium in the Ultimate Classic be increased to 1,200 milligrams? So you could take 1 ounce and it would give you, your good quotient for the day, perhaps.
Okay. Question number one, chewable omegas. We like fish oil. When you start taking fish oil, most chewable tablets, you're going to taste the fish oil, and it's going to be like cod liver oil. We find that most people don't really enjoy that. Now, to get rid of it, you can, some of the flavor to it, we could add acid, which is lemon typically, and sugar. Well, I'm sorry, I don't like giving kids sugar, period. And especially now, is Doc on here? I'm not a big fan of gummies. That's me. Okay, we'll just come out and say it because there's too much sugar in gummies. But the chewable soft tablets like the I-26 vanilla and the I-26 banana, we could, but you probably wouldn't like the taste. Let's see now. Chewable BTT, was that the second one?
Yes.
Yes, but the next question is, because it's a chewable, how many would you have to take to equal 1 scoop of 2.5 or 2 scoops of 2.0? And I think you're going to find out it's going to be about 12.
Whoa.
And so will people be willing to do that? So there's the third question.
Nope.
Adding glucogel to Classic, was it Classic?
Liquid Ultimate Classic.
Yes, we could. You start to have a little bit of more of a chemistry problem, because if we start putting 1 to 2 grams of glucosamine in the product, and then we put 1 to 2 grams of calcium in the product, we're just going to increase the amount that settles out. How much can we hold in suspension?
Mm-hmm.
And that becomes a challenge. The other thing is glucosamine, when it gets hot and cold in a liquid, has a tendency to increase the chemical reaction with B vitamins. And we start to have products with that. Now, sometimes people, if they've been taking Classic for a long time, they remember way back when sometimes the bottom of the bottle would bulge a little bit, or the seal would pop at the top. It doesn't mean it has botulism in it, but what it does mean, it's kind of like a cake recipe that has 200 ingredients. And if you're not perfect every single time, those ingredients can cause chemical reaction to release a gas. And if we have a really top seal that's really good on top of the bottle, it's got to expand somewhere. And the easiest areas are either breaking that seal or pushing out the bottom. And so we also look at what can we get away with in that mixture to not create those things. And so adding more calcium is a challenge, adding more glucogel is a challenge, and that's probably the main reasons. I get people that just say, why can't we make, and just to add to the conversation, even if it was a little bit less, put calcium and omega in Classic so that we can have one bottle that has everything. And it's just a chemical nightmare and a flavor nightmare. And so it is possible, but you're not going to like it. So why do we do soft gels? We do soft gels because bovine soft gels, and I'll get into bovine since that's brought up now, because it seals so much better, and the product inside, the oils, can't oxidize unless we put it in a real hot bottle and they become, instead of a 90 count, become a 1 count. and then we have a problem. I saw a question that was tossed out about, should we be concerned because of the vaccines going into the bovine in the various new styles of viruses? And they're doing it in the United States. However, we bring our bovine in from Argentina. And in Argentina, it's still against the law to give antibiotics and vaccines to their steer. And so we still bring in the bovine from Argentina. It's one of the reasons why our products went up in price, because the gelatin went up in price, but shipping went up a lot to bring in pallets upon pallets of gelatin into the United States. And so are we concerned about our product? No, it's never had mad cow disease in Argentina, and it's they don't give those viruses to them, and so the gelatin is more pure. Also, they like to use connective tissue, where in the United States, a lot of the times they use the hooves in making bovine, and we're not a big fan of that. In fact, years ago, Doc on his tape would tell people to go into Kentucky Fried Chicken dumpsters and grab the chicken cartilage. It wasn't that chicken cartilage was better than bovine. It was that was a humorous situation where it was easy access to get bovine. But when I went to Knox at the very beginning to get gelatin, I gave them the specs I want. And they said, oh, we're not interested in doing that. We don't care if it's horse. We don't care if it's bovine. We don't care if it's porcine. We don't care, what the source is, basically fish. There's some fish bovine out there too. And so I go, well, that isn't acceptable. And they go, well, we won't take care of you. So that's how I found the Argentina one after they said no. But they have sent Doc a thank you letter for all the interest in gelatin. And they now have a pure bovine gelatin that they market in that direction. But it is still U.S. beef, and we don't like U.S. beef either. Let's see.
I have one more question before you cut me off. Go ahead, Richard.
Go ahead.
So a lot of people ask me about, can we get a pill of some sort that has a high dosage of calcium in it? Our Ultimate Cal you have to take a lot of those. There's bone building formula, which I sometimes recommend, but what if we had a pill or capsule that had, say, 600 milligrams of calcium in it, or even more perhaps?
Let me do one thing here real quick. With 2,000 products, I just don't have them memorized like I used to. Let's do this. Let me go here, and let me go here, and let me go here. So there's King Calcium. King Calcium, put your glasses on. King Calcium has 550 milligrams of calcium in there, as well as D and K for absorption. And we'll go up here and talk about it. It's in a chewable form, and it's 3 tablets to get those numbers.
I take that at night before I go to bed. Every night.
So I would lean in that direction. Can we go with a bigger tablet and compress it and do other things to make it better? Yes, but that will give you an idea. If someone's looking for a tablet, that's my direction that I usually take them initially to go at. Now I'll remember to do it. I'll stop sharing, and you get to see me again, but that's the direction I go. So I kind of think we already do, but can we take another one? Sure, I'll toss it at Steve. Bottom line, it's his decision.
Thanks, Richard. Great to hear from you. Very educational always.
Thank you, fellas. I will remove your spotlight. There we go. Okay. So we have a question that was emailed to Rebecca earlier in the week. And it says, are dried up seabed minerals, in parentheses, rocks and shells, the same as sea salts? And do they have a negative electrical charge? I believe this to be, however, I'm being challenged. Thank you in advance.
So to answer that question is that the fulvic acid and plant-derived minerals are not shells per se, and during osmosis they don't break down, and so they're removed at that state. And it's not the same as the Great Salt Lake salts. They have variable C charges, and and can't be made into fulvic acid as easily, and most of the time they don't. And so that's why we went with the humic shale deposits that have been protected for millions of years and done the osmosis with that. So no, they're not the same. Our plant-derived minerals are negative charged. But so we're going to go back into chemistry for a second. Your colon and your digestive tract have multi-layers of absorption, some of which are positive charge and some are negative charge. And they're thinking minerals like a magnet. And if it's the opposite charge, it repels them. And if it's a like charge, it grabs them and takes them. And they're thinking only one layer of the digestive tract. Well, unfortunately, there's multiple layers. And so really it's what it's bonded to and the size of the particle and how easily it can get through the wall of your digestive to get into your blood. The advantage of fulvic acid is that it's typically only 3 to 5 molecules in size. And when you start looking at other sources, it can be a cluster of thousands. And so if you picture your digestive gut like a wiffle ball and it has all those holes in it, if your calcium is the size of your fist, you can't get it inside, can't go through the hole. But if it's the size of a BB, you can drop it in there and it goes through just fine. The advantage of fulvic acid, as well as other mineral products that we use, is that we require the cluster size of the compound to be small enough to be easily absorbable. The way to prove that, if you want to be a backyard chemist, is that summer's almost over, except for South Africa. You're just getting into it. If your arms get sunburned, on one arm, put the plant-derived minerals directly on it. On the other arm, don't. And see which one heals faster. Because you're going to find that the plant-derived minerals will go through your skin and into the tissues, the layers below, and make them healthier, and you'll heal faster because of it. And that's because it can easily just go through that membrane of your skin, which is the biggest filter of your body. Same thing with your gut.
Thank you. I love that. I always recommend people spray the plant-derived minerals on their body with essential oils and different things to help heal the skin. Thank you for explaining that.
It'll also be a carrier to bring it in through your skin.
Yes, that's what I meant, as a carrier. Okay. And you answered the vaccine and the cows. So thank you for that, because we have gotten that asked a few times. So now we know what to say. Okay, so Rod has his hand up. So I'm going to let him ask his question, and you should be able to unmute, Rod.
Hello, can you hear me? How you doing, Richard?
Doing well. You're looking good yourself.
Thank you. Good to see you again. I have 2 questions that someone just texted me. For digestion, we're not doing the microbiome right now. And since we don't have a microbiome, what's the next best recommended digestion product? And what is your #1 product recommended for budget and effectiveness for the minerals?
So your first question is 2 products. And that right now is the Benue Pre and Probiotics. And I believe they have it on a price special, along with I-26. And so the microbiome is the formula in it, if you look, is actually a half scoop of the I-26. I always kind of hope that they would increase it and make it a full scoop I-26. I absolutely love I-26. If you don't know what I-26 from, it's from an egg membrane, a chicken egg membrane, and it kills the bad bacteria, but not the good bacteria in your gut. So most people don't realize they have about 9 pounds of bacteria in their gut, 9 pounds. And it can be greater than that. And so no matter, and if you weigh one of those little scoops, it's only a few grams. And so it's not even denting really the scenario. But the bottom line of this stuff is that we all use this as seeds. And if you think of the old lawyer scales where you have good and positive, so to speak, we have a balance of what your digestive system can handle. I'll put my hands in the middle. What your digestive system can handle. And if we have good and bad bacteria there. So if we can start killing the bad bacteria and adding more good bacteria, we're going to create this type of a scale, and we're going to digest better. And so I absolutely love I-26 for that purpose. When I get someone new that I'm working with and they ask me, what should we take? You know, the easiest thing to say is the Healthy Start Pack, right? I don't. I always say the Healthy Digestive Pack, because odds on favor, one of the reasons they have sore joints, one of the reasons why they have gas, one of the reasons why they have multiple problems going on with their body is that their gut isn't healthy and you're not absorbing what you need to absorb. And if we don't fix that problem first, we're wasting our time. So I'll do something like take the Healthy Digestive Pack, but let's get some pre and probiotics from Benue and get some I-26 and take that for at least 2 months to get going. Now, I'll personally tell you, I take a full dose of pre and probiotics 2 every day. Every day. And I have since the Benue product has been with us. And I take I-26 every day in my smoothie because I'm one of those believers like Dr. Joanne Conaway, if you haven't read her digestive book, that we have to work with everybody on getting their gut healthy so they get the bang for the buck. We're not the cheapest product out there. And so to make it work more effectively, those are key starters for almost everybody. What was the second question? I guess I need to take more Synaptive.
That's okay. The second question is, what's your number one product to go to for budget and effectiveness? Like, if you had to take 1 or 2 products out of everything for budget and...
I would probably look at Ultra Body Toddy and Prohoba Omega. The Ultra Body Toddy has a good blend. It has a good amount of calcium in it. It has our trace minerals in it. It's got fruits and vegetables in it. It's got antioxidants in it. It's a neat formula. It's not one of mine. And then Prohoba Omega is our least expensive to get your essential fatty acids. And that's Dr. Wallach's 90 essential nutrients. And you really can't lose on that.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rod. And I got to re-spotlight myself. There I am. I lost myself. Easy to
There
do.
you are.
There's a lot of little people on the screen. So thank you so much for that. That was a good question. Also, before I forget and go to the next hand up, what is new? I know before you had asked if I had seen a couple things when we were doing setup. So why don't you tell us a little bit about what's new to Youngevity? And please share your screen. Thank you.
So this is the newest kid on the block. It's a new flavor of Prohoba. I've actually tasted it. I have some on my desk. You can't see it, but I have it on my desk because I'm sharing with you. And it is with dragon fruit, and it tastes good. I like it. I really do like it. Now, to slide down here, and I'm on the Youngevity website. So when people turn around and go, how do I get this information that you always pop up on your screen? This is the Youngevity website. I pop in pollen burst. It gives me some options. I click on it. But if you go down below, you start to see what's in it. And the one question always asked me is down at the bottom, the acid that we put in there to protect the skin from being damaged also makes it more absorbable. And so this product has vitamin D, it has some B vitamins in it. It's got the pollen burst product in it and green tea. So it does have a little bit of caffeine in it, but green tea has an antioxidant that's called ECGC. And those are the letters. And if you ask me to spell the whole word, I can't do it because it is longer than this screen. But that gives you an idea. So it's a brand new product. I absolutely love it. It tastes good. The item number is PJ830. And there's the prices for you. And if you don't buy it at wholesale, I'll kind of look strange at you because everyone can do it without spending any money. So you should pay that price. We do this basically to keep the federal government happy, by the way, and those types of things. The other one that I like is our new coffee product. And I like it because I'm a mushroom fan. And you can't really taste the mushrooms in this. but it's got a bunch of different mushrooms in it. And if you cursor down here, you can see them. It's got the white fungus, it's got maitake, it's got turkey, it's got oyster, it's got lion's mane in it, and it's got a series of great mushrooms in it. Mushrooms support our immune system like nothing else. One of the big differences between 1.0 and 2.0 is that we took a lot of the fruit out because people were having allergy issues with the fruit, strawberries. And we started adding mushrooms to 2.0 and 2.5 and actually made a better antioxidant product out of those two versions. Now, personally, 2.0 is still my favorite. It's the one I take. The only thing I wish that Youngevity would do, but I haven't won that battle, is they use the same size scoop in both 2.5 and 2.0 so that I could tell everyone take 2 scoops. But, you know, we'll figure that out as time goes on and do that. So those are the 2 kids on the block. I drink the coffee. Here, I'll look at this real quick. The item number is down there. It starts with the 4 series. The wholesale price is there. It comes in little tiny sachets. I'll click on this so that you can see that. And 1 sachet makes a big cup of coffee that you can be good with, and it tastes great. Now we'll get rid of this and nope. I didn't do that right. Now we'll do that. Now we did that. All right. And let's see now. Is there anything else? We got 5 more minutes, and I know we got questions.
Yes, I want to say
right, go ahead.
is that you can buy the coffee with the canister of the I-26. And you save money by buying them together.
And you can put the I-26 in the coffee.
As long as it's not too hot, correct?
Well, yes, but it's short term. Heat affects products, but it takes time. If you were to have a cup of coffee and then let it cool down and then micro zap it and then let it cool down and you micro zap it, about the 3rd time it starts to break down. Initially, if you drink it in 30 minutes or so, it doesn't have time to break down.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. All right, so AJ, you had a question, you have your hand up, so I'm bringing you on.
Yes. Okay. So Richard, the problem with having you on the show is that you generate too many questions because we know that you have a wealth of knowledge here. So, okay. So just real quick, like a 2-sentence answer here, because I have other questions from other people. When you say over time the heat, so does that mean we could use BTT with hot water?
Yes.
Because we've been told it denatures the BTT.
It takes time to do that. It takes a couple hours before it even starts to do that. Because that's how I get my kids to drink it. To me, it reminds me of heating up. What was the drink that astronauts took way back when?
Tang.
Thank you. I always drank warm Tang in the winter.
Wow.
And so sometimes I'll make warm BTT for me, but I always consume my BTT and within about 30 minutes. Doesn't have time to do it.
Amazing. Okay, that flies in the face of what we've been thinking. Okay, so now just Aaliyah is just following up. She wants to know, is there any pork in the ultimate enzymes from the pepsin?
No.
Yeah, I kind of indicated that. And then our buddy Captain wants to know the difference between the DHA in the fish that he eats and the EFA plus capsules.
So if we get ours from Norway and Iceland, those products, the amount of radiation from Japan is almost non-existent. It's also very clean water and their short-term life, so they have less lead in them. So depending on which fish he eats, and where it's from, he could have some problems with those, and we eliminate those. And if you look on the product, it has a certification, which is actually a fish oil specialty certification that tests for heavy metals and radiation on our product. It's now I got to remember the name of it because you're looking on the bottle. Thank you. And so we actually test. Did I eat salmon last night for dinner? Absolutely. I love salmon and I eat it all the time. I also love halibut. But as far as eating tuna, I like it, but I don't eat it that much because that's has a tendency to be higher in lead content, and I don't want to put a lot of lead in my body. That was a longer answer. Sorry.
No. Listen. I can't limit you. You're limitless with your knowledge, and we appreciate you sharing it with us. And yes, you do generate a ton of questions, but I'm gonna leave and let you do your thing. Thank you.
Okay, I'll make this promise. If you guys want, I'll come on once a month.
I would love that. We would love that. Okay, so I'm going to call you after the show and we can set up a date. You can come on once a month. Is that okay?
That's fine.
Perfect. Thank you for that. Oh my God, I'm so excited. I got to calm down. So you've shared a lot of really good information and it is time to end the show. Thank you so much, Richard. I'm looking forward to when you can be on with us again. And now I'm looking forward to the phone call after the show. So thank you very, very much. Did you have anything that else you wanted to say before we end?
I think a lot of people get confused on which product to take with our company. And so I kind of mentioned before how I start my people with some digestive products and the Healthy Start Pack. If you just learn which Healthy Start Pack starts with most of your conditions, and if you go back and you get your certification through the wellness group, you learn that, and there's lots of good information in that group. But if you just learn those packs and what their primary use is for, and you stay with that, 90% of the time you're going to take care of your people and they're going to see a difference in their lives. And that's why.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, so I'm going to bring on our co-host. And again, thank you, Richard. So if everybody could join me on the screen, I got to switch my scene here. So I wanted to thank everyone out there for joining us. And if your questions did not get answered, please email us at questions@dailywithdoc.com. And a certified holistic health coach will get back to you. And if it's a question for Richard, we will ask him and then give you the answer. Also, sorry, got distracted. We have a call team that's available, and the phone number is 855-949-3377. And so I want to introduce our co-hosts, and I'm going to go with what's on my screen. And Phyllis Anderson, who helped Doc get on the radio. And I wanted to give a shout out because Dr. Wallach is here, and none of this would be possible without him, and Richard and Steve. So thank you all. But Dr. Wallach, you're our hero. So thank you. All right. So Phyllis Anderson helped get Doc on the radio, and she is helping to respond on the formats and disclaim everywhere that I could, because we're out there a lot. So thank you so much, Phyllis. And then we have Marilyn, who is transcribing pretty much everything that is said, so that you all can read it. And if you wanted to save anything, you can take a screenshot of that if you're here live with us on Zoom. And we encourage everyone to join us on Zoom so that you can have access to that as well. And then we have Rod, who's also out there helping with the different platforms and letting people in and doing security, which fortunately we haven't had to use. And then we have Albert, and Albert is from South Africa, and it's like 9 or 10 o'clock at night for him, and he's here every day. So thank you, Albert. He's letting people into the waiting room, and he may be asking you what your name is if you come in and you're a Zoom user or something that we don't recognize. So he's doing that. And of course, we have AJ, who helps me and gets us out on, I don't even know how many formats on anymore because it keeps growing, and we wouldn't have been able to do that without AJ. He's my assistant. He's our right-hand guy, and I am very grateful. And so thank you for joining us. My name is Ruth Ellen Sanchez. I'm the executive production manager for Daily with Doc and Becca. So we look forward to seeing you again next Monday. Thank you so much for joining us. Goodbye, everybody.
This program is for educational purposes only. The content is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any diseases, nor is it intended to take the place of your primary care physician. The statements in this program have not been evaluated by the FDA. Testimonials are shared as individual experiences, and the individual results vary and may not be typical. We do not make any claims regarding health or income. As an empowered individual, you do have options available. We are honored to have a founding father of the science of epigenetics guiding us with the best options to obtain or maintain optimal health, Dr. Joel Wallach. This program is for educational purposes only. The content is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any diseases, nor is it intended to take the place of your primary care physician. The statements in this program have not been evaluated by the FDA. Testimonials are shared as individual experiences, and the individual results vary and may not be typical. We do not make any claims regarding health or income. As an empowered individual, you do have options available. We are honored to have a founding father of the science of epigenetics guiding us with the best options to obtain or maintain optimal health, Dr. Joel Wallach.